Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarket's podcast pioneer with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey everybody, it's Carm Capriato at Apex 2024 again in the beautiful studio that Apex has appointed for us. We're in the Town Hall Academy, got three fabulous guests. You can probably see them up on the screen there. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. They're not going to eat your lunch. Hey, let's thank our great sponsors. You know, NAPA Tracks will move your shop into the SMS fast lane with on-site training and 6-day-a-week support and local representation. Find NAPA Tracks on the web at NAPATRACS.com. Auto Fix Auto Shop Coaching. My friend Chris Cotton will help you shift your gears and redefine success. Imagine your business not just meeting, but exceeding every goal. AutoshopCoaching.com. And are you ready to optimize training with today's class? Well, in just 5 minutes daily, boost knowledge, retention, and improve team performance. Start seeing results today. Join your peers at todaysclass.com. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and thanks. I don't know about you, but I have conference voice already, and I've got so much more work to do. Man, is it noisy.
Yeah.
Good to see you all. Matt Fanslow's here, Riverside Automotive, Red Wing, Minnesota. The Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z podcast. Hey, Matt.
It's funny.
Tanner Brandt's here from Autodiag Clinic, a NASDAQ liaison. You run their what?
The knowledge base on NASDAQ.
Cool. Nice. Good for you. Tanner's also a mobile Diag programmer and industry consultant. Been on the show before. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Of course.
For the podcast and the industry. And Isaac Rodell is here. Auto Rescue Tools and Computers WTI trainer.
Yes, sir.
You all three brought your wives to Apex.
Yeah.
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't bring her to Apex. Are you kidding me?
I'm sorry, no, not at Apex, but you brought her here to Las Vegas.
Yeah. And then she got off the plane and went one direction, and I went the other. And
Is that what happened to you guys?
Mine actually hung out. Well, she was with us last night. Tracy got to meet her, and she's got to meet some people here that are somewhat connected to her. My wife's in intellectual property, so she got to meet some people that also were in that space while she's been here. So that worked out good for her.
Nice. Yeah, I remember meeting her last night.
Yep.
I haven't met your wife yet, Isaac. Are you kind of keeping her away from all of us?
No, she's sitting in a room reading a book. That's her preferred method of
good. And also
socialization.
And she's trying to answer the calls for the business, right?
Yes.
We just had that was an offline discussion. And it's amazing when you think about the connectivity that we have in our industry among you peers and trainers and consultants. People need you, they need you. And you go away to a conference or you're teaching somewhere and they're saying, "Where the busy? I need them. I pay for this."
Yeah, it's definitely funny. So, as big as the industry seems, it's very small, especially in our circle of friends, I guess I would say. If I have a problem, we basically play phone tag with all the same group of people, and then if we're gone, I see it, especially with like remote programming. There's a company right now that a lot of us do remote programming through, and if all of us are at an event, that can kind of come to a standstill because nobody is around to do it. Everybody is at an event together, and I would say that a pretty big portion of those people are at this event. So there's certainly times where that happens.
Well, we talk a lot about the shop owners that close, and they bring sometimes half of their people, and they work a half schedule. They close completely for, say, a weekend conference, a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And you guys have to do that because you're trainers, and you may have 2 or 3 people working with you or for you or on the sidelines, but you're the business.
Yeah.
And can you put up a shingle weeks before to your client base and say, just to let you know, I'm heading here and I'm going to be dark for a while? Will they accept that? Or do you have a chance to lose somebody and they'll go somewhere else?
So all of mine, I send out a mass email to all of mine. I'm in contact with all of them. I send out an email the month prior and then a week prior so they all know.
Okay.
I still answer their phone calls. I've scheduled, like next week is pretty much all scheduled, but they know that I'm gone. They know that I do this. Some of them are here in attendance. We'll attend training classes while I'm gone. If I give them a heads up of where I'm going. I have like a handful of them that will also come along with. So mine are all pretty good about it. It's very few, unless it's obviously a new client that's calling, and then they can be a little bit upset sometimes because they don't know. But typically they've gotten my phone number from somebody else, and it's explained to them the rest of what I do. So even new clients.
Same with you, Isaac?
Yeah, we've certainly lost a couple shops over the years of doing this. Shops that can't tolerate it. They need a transmission program today. I'm also in an area that's heavily saturated by other mobile people. We have 7 mobile businesses in the area that I'm at, so there's always someone else that can do the programming unless it's an odd job.
And where do you live?
Raleigh area, North Carolina.
Yeah. It's a bigger city.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there.
There's definitely a lot going on in the Raleigh area.
And you live in the country, right, Tanner?
Not so. My house is in the country, but I live between Greenville, South Carolina, and Asheville, North Carolina.
Wow,
He lives on a mountaintop.
I do.
Yeah,
do.
I saw some pictures. Unbelievable. So
I don't know how they got the house to just balance there, but
when the hurricane came through, I wasn't sure it was going to stay up there. I was thinking it might end up at the bottom. But
yeah, Asheville. When you hear Asheville today, you know that was devastated.
Yeah, for sure. I was fortunate that I was in Pennsylvania when it went through and then had to come home. Our house and garage is okay. The community around us, the town that I'm in, is okay. We're up on a little knoll, but much of the area around me is pretty devastated. Pretty much all the areas you've seen on the news are within like 10 to 15 miles of me. Some are, as close as like 4 or 5 miles from me. So definitely was a learning experience, I guess I would say. I've never been through that before, so there was that part of it.
Last night you told me a great story about a tool company that stepped up.
Yeah, so we've had quite a few tool companies, or I shouldn't say quite a few, a handful of tool companies that have stepped up. So ASTA in North Carolina did some fundraising, and they're helping shops get some money to try to help them get back on their feet. And then at the same time, I decided to basically reach out to some of the companies that I do consulting for and let them know what was going on and explain to them that a lot of the shops that flooded lost all the electronic equipment. And a lot of people don't know this, but FEMA only does personal property. So because FEMA only does personal property, the shops have no way to get money currently to get back on their feet other than like an SBA loan, bank loan. So we decided to help the shops get a group of equipment suppliers together. And basically, I'm going to shops, getting their lists of equipment needs together. We told them, go ahead and clean up hand tools, clean up toolboxes, anything like mechanical that they can clean up, do that. And we'll try to replace their electronic stuff. So far, as of right now, Power Probe, Clore Automotive, Autel, Sunex, Horizon Tool or Kelvan Tool, and AES Wave has helped us get some supplies to the first shop. I just delivered everything on Friday. And then Mac Tools on their own through one of their franchisees. I guess I was told this story secondhand, but one of their franchisees reached out to Mac and let them know what was going on and explain the same thing that I did, that it's mostly electronic tools, like cordless tools, stuff like that they lost. So they sent out a whole bunch of cordless impacts and kits like that to one of their franchises, and then they distributed throughout the Asheville area, so they helped too.
And they gave them away.
Yeah. So everybody that has helped me so far, the shop that I delivered to Friday, we pretty much brought back from the brink of extinction. They had about 10, 12 foot of water in their shop. The scan tools were all basically covered in mud. You could barely see them in the toolboxes, and they had nothing left. So they were, they at least wanted to reopen. So we got them everything they needed to be able to reopen the doors. There's certainly some shops that lost everything, building included. Those guys don't really know what they're going to do yet. Hopeful that they will figure it out, but we're trying to get the shops that have something left back on their feet.
It was phenomenal to see what happened at ASTA, and I was there, and I was actually teaching a class. And as the hurricane was coming through, one of the members of the class got a text that his business, one of his employees' home was totally devastated, lost. And it was a really touching moment to have to share that with everyone, and he did. And we all couldn't quite fathom that this hurricane was doing this kind of damage. By the night of the dinner, and I don't know if you were at the dinner for ASTA on that last Saturday night, and Tracy, you were there, and you were there, Isaac? I'm trying to remember, but I do believe that somewhere before I left, they were talking about just in those few days, 80 grand they had, or maybe it was 80 grand just in the auction. We, as Remarkable Results, we gave $1,000. Well, I come home and I signed on and I did it. There was so much industry brotherhood, sisterhood that happened because of this. We're a great industry.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening to see how willing to help everybody was. I think there's a lot of people that look at this industry as glass half empty, and are very pessimistic about it, but it's a lot smaller than people realize, and most of the companies are willing to help. Some of the companies are not public about being willing to help, but all of the companies that I sent emails to pretty much responded with, just tell us what you need and where you need it, and we're going to keep sending it until you're done. So that was, pretty eye-opening to see, and I don't think a lot of people realize the industry's is that willing to help.
Thank you for what you did and what you continue to do.
Yeah, of course.
What class you teaching here?
I taught a network diagnostics class and a turbocharger diagnostics class yesterday.
Wow. Good attendance?
So. First class was attended a little bit better than the second.
Okay.
Events like this, when it's a big expo, I don't expect as much turnout as I guess I would say like a Vision or something like that, just simply because of everyone's here to look at cool cars, not take classes. But I'm glad that people took time to come and take the class.
Good.
You picked systems that don't break too. So
I will say, being SEMA Apex, I did figure that the turbocharger class would have more people that were aftermarket, and I had two guys that were definitely more on that side that were super interested, but that was it. And I mean that class only had like 10 people in it, and I really would have expected that one to have more given the setting that it's in. I taught at Apex. It'll be interesting to see numbers at SEMA in comparison.
yeah.
I have to say that turbocharger class is absolutely fantastic. After taking that class, when you initially wrote it, I figured out all of the misdiagnosed turbos that I've ever done.
Well, I appreciate that.
That's really funny.
Three. There was three. There was three turbos in the 15 years. But I knew instantly when Tanner went over that portion of the course. I was like, oh, well, now that car makes so much more sense to me. And it was cars that I misdiagnosed early in my career, but it was fantastic insight because there's so much information in that turbo class. It's really sad to hear that it was underattended because it's a phenomenal course.
Yeah. I was at least happy that people came. That's the biggest thing to me. But I've always enjoyed, Isaac has a great high voltage class, and you taught that yesterday here, correct?
I did. I taught that yesterday, similar numbers, but it was nice because we were able to get a lot of personal interactions, share different pieces of stories with people, because when you have a course that small versus a large room with 50 people in it, you can have personalized discussions. You can discuss a vehicle that's been in their shop and have an open discussion about it instead of saying, hey, we just have to go through the bullet points and get through the material. So there are some advantages to the smaller class.
As instructors and course developers, are you living your superpower? Do you love what you do?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I would say the one thing that is sort of unfortunate is events like this, sometimes you have influencers that get a lot of attention. They're at a booth somewhere and they're signing things like that, and people don't realize that they have somebody like Isaac who's known throughout the industry teaching a class here, and then the attendance isn't good. But if you go to a booth where there's an influencer, there's 200 people in line, but they have no idea that they have Isaac here, they have Eric Ziegler here, they have all these guys that are teaching. They have a really good class lineup this year, and the influencers who may or may not deserve the attention. Some of them certainly do, but some of them are are getting attention instead of the people that should be getting the attention.
That is a great point. Based on your personality styles, I'm assuming this. I'm just kind of leaning over my skis on this. Your ego isn't that big that you need to be on Facebook all the time and every day and doing a video. Am I right?
That's correct. I'm
and that's why he's an influencer, but he's not an influencer.
Exactly.
He's not that over the top influencer that people are going to want to come and get in line to get a selfie with you.
I hope not.
You have a lot of people that know their stuff who interact with Isaac, either starting out second hand, third hand, and then they get a chance to talk to him and maybe even run a question by him or an idea then they learn he knows what he's talking about. But it's kind of like Tanner mentioned earlier, is it's kind of a relatively small circle of these people that would be the real brain trust. But they're not the ones you see online. Right. They're not the ones that have the Instagram or TikToks or anything like that. And they have little interest in it as well. They'd just rather figure the car out or how something works.
Well, should we make you guys superstars somehow?
Well, so Hawk and I were talking about Matt yesterday, and we need to start an only Fanslow.
It set a record for the lowest numbers, but
we're gonna be seeing things on social media that goes, well, Matt retired from his only Fanslow after 5 years and $13 billion.
It still wasn't enough to buy World Pack.
Oh, that's really good.
I just wanted to be Isaac's boss.
Would you let him for a day?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. I just need the shirt, the only Fanslow shirt.
Yeah, that's going to make Matt famous.
God,
Matt will be famous.
That is just too funny.
Infamous.
I guess that's the next shirt I'm going to make after the serial killer shirt. Next shirt's the only Fanslows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys are superstars in the eyes of the people that matter in the industry, that they're out there earning their living. These, hard-working front line, really caring about doing a great job and using you three and so many others in the industry as resources, backup. They want to listen to you. They want to be involved in what you guys are doing, and there's no ego in this whole thing. And I love your point about you guys aren't influencers, but you are more important influencer than anybody on the superficial side would ever know.
Tanner and I did an episode a while back trying to bring names up of people you've maybe never heard of who've done so much for us. And the whole episode, Tanner's there. He does so much behind the scenes, joke around about him being a ninja and all that, just because there's so much he does that so few know about, yet his influence is felt by some technicians countrywide, for sure, maybe further. And that's not blowing smoke up his tail. He does a lot. He has a lot of contacts, does a lot of positive things, and too few people know about it.
Matt stole my thunder because I was going to explain that Matt does a lot of things. So one of the things that people don't think about, you and Harv and Scott Manna and all the people that came before us, but people don't realize that a lot of the tools and equipment that they use every single day, especially scan tools and diagnostic stuff, most of those tools, features, functions would not exist with guys like Matt. I mean, there was 2 units for the last new Autel tool sent out during COVID. There was only 2 in existence in the globe, and we know who those went to, and one of them was Matt. So they basically said...
I think that was a mistake. But.
They basically said, don't break these, there is no more. And so there's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, Harv and Manna helped a ton with making Snap-on equipment like it is. So a lot of people don't realize that. And like you look at the Amp Hound and people that had, worked on that behind the scenes, the Phil's probe, and people don't realize it's Phil Fernier. And, so there's a lot of that stuff that's out there that would not exist. And technicians may or may not be able to do their job without those tools. And, we look at J2534 pass-through devices, and a lot of those people that helped with building that and building the devices and getting that legislature passed are all people that are in our circle. So it's all people that are not famous, but most of the industry doesn't realize that a large portion of technology that's used every single day came from a very small group of people that nobody knows.
Humble.
Yeah.
So if they were going to name a tool after Matt, what would it be?
Wheel chalk.
That was pretty quick.
What would they call it? A mat chuck?
Yeah.
Or just a mat?
If they were
could a mat
floor
chuck
mat.
it's going to have to be a scan tool company that comes out with like a new series of tools, and they're just going to call it the Legends series by Matt Fanslow.
Matt or a fact.
So here's the deal. So we went up and did video yesterday. Where do we go? We go to the Autel booth.
Yeah.
He walks in there like he's the chairman.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And they all come up to him, and they gave us full carte blanche to show this brand new, just announced tool, and allowed Matt to play with it.
Yeah.
And we got it on video, and he was pretty damn excited. And what he was excited about was they listened to us. They did some of the stuff that, when you send up a trouble code or you say, I wish you could or it would do this, he says, they're listening to us. And to hear someone saying, I love this tool because I feel like I'm inside of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they listened.
Yeah. And the reason they love it may have been something that Matt came up with, or that Matt helped with, or that one of our other friends helped with, and they may not know that. It's, and it's also interesting to see, like, with a new tool, the amount of us that may have a new tool that are helping with development, nobody realizes. I had a shop come up to me last week, a race shop, really good race shop, pretty cool. They had just set a record over at Pikes Peak, so really cool organization. And they were taking pictures of a charger that I had in my vehicle, and they're like, oh, we need one of these that charges lithium batteries. And they went online to order it, and I had to quick go, hey, hold on, don't order that. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, look at the menu on what I have in my truck versus the menu on the one you're about to order. And they go, oh, crap, it's different. And they go, well, how do we get that one? And I go, I can't tell you about it right now. That's, it's in development.
I'll have to kill you.
I can't tell you.
Yeah, it's in development. However, it is coming out soon. I can't talk about the company stuff, but they didn't realize, that it's a tool that's in development, and we've been working on with the company. So a lot of that goes on, and then they went, oh, well, it's right here. And all of a sudden he looks at the picture and goes, hey, that's sitting on a beta cart. That looks just like yours. I go, yeah, I took that picture. It's one from me. So this charger that's in the NAPA catalog, the pictures that are in there are from me. And so there's a lot of that goes on, though, with, like, I'm a very, very small cog in the wheel. Matt has done so much more of it than me, and Harvey and Scott Mann and stuff. But people don't realize that that's where a lot of that stuff comes from. And that's how all of those tools, make it to production, is somebody had to help with it. And many times it may be somebody and you don't even realize. This charger I brought up is because it is the same color as the old one. So we painted it that way so nobody would realize that it was, not a production unit. So nobody knows that it's in, being tested. Nobody knows that our group of friends is helping with this and, helping with tools that they're going to use, down the road.
Tanner just described the power that you have as influencers in the industry, and no one knows.
Exactly. Yeah, we aren't a talking head out there. Matt is. Everyone knows who Matt is. And you saw that when you walked in the Autel booth, and they just gave him, here's the key to the house.
Because I hadn't showered, and they're just parting the ways.
It's Matt.
Get out of the way.
Matt says, can we do a video on this tool? And I was listening to the instructions he was getting.
Yeah.
Matt, you can do all this stuff, but.
Yeah.
And like last time, you can't take it away.
Oh, that's funny. Yesterday, I walked out of the Autel booth with a tool for class.
Did you?
And when I walked up there this morning, I just unzipped my backpack and set the tool back down, and all the guys were just kind of looking at me. And I was like, well, I had permission from one person, but I did. I pulled a Fanslow, and I stole a tool from the booth and brought it back the next day.
They tell you they keep track of the serial number so you can't register it. Lies.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then they looked at me and they were like, well, if you didn't bring it back, we were just going to charge your distribution account anyway. So
yeah. I do have tools that I have to, every time I renew, I have to call because the email is a beta email that doesn't belong to me. So I can't renew it on my own.
That's a funny story. The honest thief is walking in. His conscience got the best of him.
I'm honestly going to steal this from you.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What are you seeing from the members in your class? Are you seeing eyes glassed over? I mean, I've got
Isaac's, they're glazed over like the donuts he puts on waffle irons.
Oh my God, yeah. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Isaac is the king of
Krispy Kreme.
The Krispy Kreme waffle
King.
donut.
the Krispy
King.
Krispy Kreme king.
And
Say that 5 times fast.
It all started, I mean, you've been doing this for a long, long time. And I think it was 3 years ago was it your first trip, Tracy?
yeah.
Second trip at Asta. And we decided to actually film this going on inside of the studio room that we were in. And I got to tell you, she approached this thing as if she was Barbara Walters, straight and asking these really Matt Fanslow style questions.
You gotta pause so people can Google Barbara Walters.
All right.
Maybe
Fine, Connie Chung.
You're right.
there's a possibility that we've been doing the training thing wrong, and maybe that we should just be doing waffle donuts before every single class.
Oh my
That
God,
might be
what an
the key.
idea. There's the draw.
There
Well,
it is.
there
Why
was
come to learn? Come to eat.
Exactly.
Well, there was the one year they brought me, after we did that first year, they did bring me donuts into the classroom, and I made Krispy Kreme waffle donuts while teaching.
No.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That's 2 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
Yeah, it was post-COVID, so 2 years ago. But yeah, I was making them during the class, and I was just waffle ironing donuts and handing them out to every student in the class. They brought me a couple
So we
boxes.
didn't know, but Isaac's superpower is multitasking.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
I have turned ADD into a superpower.
Yeah,
100%.
I thought it was just you only needed like a couple hours of sleep, like the fly, but this is next level.
All
If
right.
you not talk to him on the phone, he'll have like 4 conversations going on at the same time. He's the king of multitasking.
Let me just say, I'm reading a book on focus, and multitasking came up in this first 80 pages of the book. And they say, doesn't exist, by the way, just to let you know.
Yeah.
I tend to agree.
I would agree with that. My brain just does fire here,
Yeah,
fire there.
it's on and
then go
off. It's
back
on
to
and off.
here.
You cannot overlap them. Let's go back to the Krispy Kremers. Everybody's probably maybe that doesn't know you. You've never seen the shows that we've done on this. I'm sitting there with my mouth, first of all, drooling because I really want to taste this thing, but saying, where did this guy come up with that? Or is that?
He thought it was a bagel.
But did you invent this, or was it?
I did not invent
Is it
this.
done in like speakeasies in the South?
Yes.
Pause while everyone Googles what a speakeasy is.
There's actually even a bar in Chapel Hill called Speakeasy.
Really? Is it behind like a front or?
It is. It's behind a coffee shop.
Listen, if there is something that can be made more unhealthy, you won't find it in the South.
Oh
So,
my God,
yeah.
that is so true. You just heat the waffle iron up, you put the Krispy Kreme in the center, you drop the top lid, and what, minute later?
Not even 30 seconds.
30 seconds later.
And it's good for about up to 3-day-old donuts.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it is.
Nice.
The beauty of it is that you come away with turning 3-day-old donuts into freshly done.
Into
Decadence.
deliciousness.
Pure decadence.
Decadence. Oh, I like that, yeah.
Do you put syrup on them still afterwards as well?
You can't.
Absolutely.
Oh, you
Absolutely.
really?
Oh, I love, yeah. Now, I think part of my inspiration came from, you guys remember John Boy and Billy? I don't know if John Boy and Billy still exists.
I don't
Radio
know.
show. It was a radio show.
John Boy and Billy?
John Boy and Billy was a radio show in the 90s.
Okay.
And they would come to the North Carolina State Fair. And you guys remember when KFC had the sandwich where the chicken was the buns?
Yeah. Yep.
So they did the John Boy and Billy sandwich where they then sandwiched that inside of Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh.
That's what we do in the South.
But when you heat up that Krispy Kreme, the sugar it almost goes up another level. So I don't understand how you do syrup too.
I love maple syrup. We actually have a customer that I used to work on their Sprinter vans. We had the repair shop, and they had a maple farm in Vermont, and we would let them trade us gallons of maple syrup for Sprinter repairs.
Okay.
I think if you go to Starbucks there, you can get your shot of this and espresso and all that. You can also get a shot of insulin.
Little known fact about maple syrup. I love maple syrup. Up in New York State, we have great stuff. I don't know if you know
As
this.
good as Vermont.
Well, Quebec actually is the largest maker of maple syrup in the world. But I was at a restaurant once, and on the menu was real maple syrup. And I think they charged a couple of bucks. And they would bring a real, because I cannot handle Aunt Jemima's and all the other
Log cabin.
Corn
log
syrup?
cabin.
Can't handle corn
Can't
syrup.
handle.
Brown corn syrup.
Because it's not maple syrup. I don't think you have a pancake or a waffle without real maple syrup. And I was at a restaurant a while back, and I watched a guy, 3 tables, go into his pocket, get a little squirt bottle out, and have it on the table. And he brought real maple syrup to this restaurant to put on his pancakes. And then just recently, and I can't remember where I was, I said to the waitress, I says, "Do you have real maple syrup?" She goes, "Yes, sir. You willing to pay for it?" I said, "Yes." So I think there may be a trend. Just they don't want to give it to you. They want to sell you. It's an upcharge. Okay, I get it. But if you want real maple syrup, I think if you start asking, you're going to get it.
Yeah, and I would especially say in the Northeast, I mean, you're in Buffalo area, it's a lot more prevalent than like where Isaac and I are in the South. There's a lot less
deciduous trees.
Yeah, and especially now, which any of them that were there are probably on the ground after the hurricane. I mean, we lost a ton of trees, so it's going to be even less of a thing. But there's just a lot less maple trees that survive down in that area. There's a lot of oak and stuff like that. But
maybe you can put bourbon. Maybe there's a lot of bourbon down there.
Could be. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of alcohol there in general.
Bourbon and pancakes. Bourbon pancakes. I made pumpkin pancakes for the first time. I've got a great pancake recipe. I'm a pancake guy, right? And so I decided to look up and modify a pancake recipe. And you had some, right, Trace? She liked it. All right. Anyway, where did we go? How did we get into pancakes?
The Krispy Kreme donut.
You're just pushing this baking agenda.
So there was a good thing that I saw on Facebook, and then Jim Kokona sent it to me a couple hours after I saw it, and I was like, oh, man, we are on the same page. Thanksgiving leftover waffle iron.
What?
Take your Thanksgiving leftovers, put them together, put it in the waffle iron, and make a Thanksgiving leftover waffle, and then you put the cranberry and the turkey on top of it. Now I cannot wait for Thanksgiving to be over so I can make a Thanksgiving waffle the next day.
This is genius.
Wait a minute. I've got this. Piece of turkey, some sweet potatoes or squash, some mashed potatoes over here, sprinkle some veggies over it, and close the lid.
Oh, and the stuffing. They were making it with stuffing.
I'm sorry.
So that it has
the binder. Come on.
Let's put the binder on two sides, north and south, and then close the lid. And then you just take your spatula, you pull it out. You got this beautiful pattern on top. Oh my
Tracy,
God.
just pause this. Let's go eat.
I'm so excited for Thanksgiving now.
This is so cool. All right, we're going to start a cooking show.
There you go. Things you can do with a waffle iron 101.
Yeah.
Would you come on?
Waffle iron and a soldering iron.
Yeah, would you come on once a month and give us a new waffle iron idea?
I'm down. Let's do it.
It would be like people searching for a home every week, right? Come on down. Let's do waffle iron mash.
I make a brilliant creme brulee with oxyacetylene torch. So.
Hey, I have cooked hot dogs with a torch before in upstate New York.
How long does it take?
Not too long. We used to do it all the time. We're in a tow truck shop. We used to do it all the time there.
I go to White Flame, man. I got that thing done.
The White Flame for the white hots.
Have you ever seen sugar turn blue? What the?
Steam comes out of the end of the hot dogs.
It blows up while you're trying to heat it up. Yeah.
I'm cooking it from the middle out.
I wonder, then you could stick a metal rod to it and you could heat up the rod and cook it from the inside out.
Just short out
like microwaving mechanically.
You can just short out the metal rod.
12-volt cooking.
There you go. Okay, so a Matt Fanslow tip.
EV could be down the road.
Oh, man, just wait till I get that Nissan Leaf battery, but it won't last long enough to cook more than 6-pack of hot dogs.
Matt Fanslow is the one that is infamous for using a thermal imager for checking heated electric circuits.
It's true.
He's going to be the first one to cook a hot dog by heating up an electrical circuit.
If we scroll through the FLIR pictures on my phone, I'm pretty sure I was checking food with the FLIR. That was one of my good uses. I was like, oh, yeah, let's check this food out.
How did we get here?
I took an airplane.
No, in this discussion. I loved it. I loved it. So what's next for the industry? I mean, the big movement of the way we're hitting education so hard, and we're seeing the same people in the class. How do we get new faces, guys?
This is an event where we really have an opportunity to get more faces. I mean, you look at the amount of shop owners that are at SEMA wandering around. It'd be great to get some of them to get more involved in training. They all come to SEMA because it's cool and it's sexy, and they get to see all the aftermarket stuff. But I mean, there's significantly more people attending that than there are coming to Vision. So somehow we have to get the people that are coming to see that stuff to also come and sit through some training classes.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we lean on those influencers.
Yeah. And maybe I have to hire somebody that's better looking than me to teach the class. I mean, that's also part of SEMA. There's certainly a lot of better looking people over there at the booths than me, so that's part of it too. But yeah.
Oh, please.
They're photoshopped.
We're gonna get Tanner a Chippendales like spandex suit to wear.
They just have permanent filters on.
Yeah.
So how do we make education sexy? I know my tractor's sexy, by the way, but how do we make...
It's maybe not the training itself, but, even regionally, you just do the math on a lot of these events. Even the biggest events, you take the attendance numbers and just figure out by region the percent of techs that are really there. It's minuscule.
I bet it's fractions of a percent.
Yeah, mere fractions. And then Apex is a prime candidate for kind of a more Western region. So how do we drive the numbers up? How do you get the word out to come here? And then why? And training's going to be a part of it, but it's got to be more, right? There's got to be a bunch of us attendees working like other training events that started out small and grew, getting word out, talking about our experience here, how good it was, how great it was, who we met, what classes we took, hopefully driving more and more interest to keep attending, and the numbers should go up. Hopefully will go up.
Yeah, I think he's right to a certain point. This can be a very critical Western region, technician event. It is national as far as the draw SEMA has, but I've always said this about Apex. If you earn your living, the money comes in your wallet because you work at the service aftermarket, then Apex is for you. Because there's not only look at the equipment you can play with. Look at the people that are inventing. I mean, you're going to go into the Autel booth and they're going to say, "Come over here, let me show you this new thing that's coming out in a couple of weeks."
Yeah.
And they're going to, well, why is this new and different? And they're going to tell you, and you're going to blow your mind. And so you see, you feel, you touch, you learn. And to your point about this being, it can be the Western's region most important show.
The people not coming to Apex aren't the ones going like, well, I'm going to go to Vision, I'm going to go to ASTA, I'm going to go to ATE.
Yeah.
They're just not going anywhere. So they've never been to a trade show. And I don't know that there's really many trade shows like the Apex trade show, just in sheer volume. And then we do have spillover to SEMA. We have to accept that that's happened and hopefully reel them back over to Apex. But they don't understand what it's like to go to a trade show like this, an expo, and be able to put their hands on the latest and greatest, or see something they've never seen before, or with the equipment they already have, to be able to speak not only to a company representative face to face that knows the tool. They could be sitting next to or standing next to Isaac Rodell, Tanner Brandt, who has used that tool, knows it intimately well, more in a real world sense than the representative from the company, and they can go, oh, yeah, here, let me show you this, or let me show you this trick, or yes, it can absolutely do that, or no, it can't do that, and honestly, no, nobody does, or nobody does it well. This is stuff you're not getting online. This is not stuff you're getting by not going to these training expo or training events and trade shows. You just can't do that. So they have to be sold on the idea of the value of going here, interacting with the equipment, interacting with people, and then boom, naturally networking occurs. And you just can't hit that word enough. It's gonna be synonymous with communication. Probably start annoying people with it. But network. That's how you keep rising through the ranks or hierarchy of skills and talent and capability.
I love what he said. Let's break it down. As an example, you three were up on a stage and you were demonstrating a new tool that was, whatever you were doing on the scan tool would be up on a big screen, and someone would be asking you questions about you've had a chance for weeks to either play with the tool, use it in the field. Now you're coming back, and it is the in-depth, brand new discussion amongst peers, trainers, technology specialists in the field that have said, here's why you should buy this tool. Now, it's not like you're going to sell it for the tool company, but if I was in the audience watching you three talk about this latest and greatest, I could cut down on all the research that I may have to do on Google and talk to other peers. It's like, wow, it was Tanner who literally lit my brain up as to why he values that. That was always my struggle. I got to buy that tool. So instead of walking into a booth and having sales pitch, have these disinterested third parties, good or bad. The company has to accept whatever you're on stage doing, and it could be edgy. And we could end up having a dozen of these over 3 days.
Yeah. And even having people in their booths, but it seems they would prefer to have a talking head in the booth to sign autographs versus somebody that may know about their equipment, which I get that. I get the publicity aspect of it, but if that person is in your booth signing autographs, you're hoping that your salespeople are getting them while they're in the booth and that, you are getting exposure from it. But I often wonder how much exposure they're actually getting. Obviously, you're getting people to come to the booth, but are you actually selling them anything? Do you actually have anything worth selling? There's some booths that have influencers that are in them this week that I've seen, and I have to question if the influencers, the people that are coming to see the influencers, are actually going to help them sell product. Basically, because of what they sell, I don't know that it's actually going to result in product numbers.
In everything, there's an ROI.
Yeah.
And there's foot traffic. And there's people that are going to visit your booth. And if I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, how many people came into my booth? How many people came to see my influencer? And I guess you rub a lucky horseshoe and say, hopefully I'm going to sell some of this stuff because of all of this.
Yeah.
Well, and the other part of that may just be brand awareness.
Correct.
What if it's not a strong brand, so they hire an influencer or someone that people want to line up and see just so that their pictures are in front of them and they get their brand name out there.
That's exactly.
I think brand awareness is probably a big part of that because there's a lot of things here, just even with us working in this industry, there's hundreds of companies here that I've never heard of.
Yeah.
You go over to the China Auto part in the pavilion now, or in Caesars Forum, and you go through the China Auto. We've never heard of any of these companies.
No.
May not even be able to pronounce their name, but they make one component of that car. They may make the race for that bearing. They may make the whole bearing. They may make the hubs that are white labeled by another large company, and we just don't know that.
Yeah.
And so they hire an influencer to get that brand awareness and say, well, this is what we're doing as a company.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
And then there's probably some underrated products and overrated products.
Yeah.
It's probably like overly optimistic, but a lot of times the new car dealership theory is supposed to be it's the salespeople that sell you the first car. It's the service department that sells you the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And I don't mean that so much that you buy whatever piece of equipment and it breaks and they fix it and they stand behind it and all that. I hope they do. But on top of that is, if I am at a show like this and I am at a booth with blah, blah, blah scan tool, and I'm asking somebody about some test because I just got out of Tanner Brandt's turbo class and he's looking at some data a certain way and I don't think this tool will do it, so I'm standing there with a representative. They may or may not be able to answer that question because it's not their world. But Isaac Rodell just so happens to be standing there, or many, many others who leans over and says, oh yeah, that'll do that. Let me show you quick. And that is going to go back to the shop and it's like, this tool's great. I feel better about this tool. And now when it's time to get another one and another one and another one, they're buying that tool rather than just going for this short, initial sale and focusing on that, focusing on the third and the fourth and the fifth.
Yeah. I have, so one of the things that shops always ask me is like, what equipment do I carry? And a lot of times
you get to say all of them though.
Well, to an extent,
some of us don't get to say all of them.
There's certain ones that I don't carry though, and they're always like, well, everyone has one of those. Why don't you? And I go, I just don't have a use for it.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. People can find out what you use and how you use it, and it may open their eyes to other options that are out there, and then also make them question the tools that they have currently bought that nobody is using to do the rest of the work.
100%.
Okay, got a question. How do each of you stay current?
I call Isaac.
I hang out with Matt.
Yeah, okay. And I guess my point is that you're trainers and consultants in the industry, you're leaders, you're quiet influencers, if you will. But still in all, you have to stay on the cutting edge if you're going to be out training. So are you taking each other's classes? Are you going and learning from each other and then saying, and you're learning one new little thing, you're bringing that back, you're putting it into your content, and you're climbing the ladder of success. Your stuff gets better and better. Is that how it works?
Well, absolutely. And I think all of us have an advantage of being diag guys. As Tanner and I both run mobile businesses, we get to see interesting things that we would not see in a production shop just because of the nature of our businesses.
Right.
I've recently been doing work for Avis rental cars, and Avis won't wait for the dealer. So I'm now working on 23, 24, and 25 model year vehicles again. I wouldn't have that opportunity if I was not in the business space that I'm in. I got to diagnose a Dodge Ram 1500 that had 1,200 miles on it right before we came here. That vehicle's still under warranty.
What was wrong with it?
Spread terminals at 2 different spots on the same wire.
Brutal.
What?
It was great.
1,500 miles?
1,200, yeah, 1,200
Wait a minute,
miles. 1,200 miles, a 2024 Ram 1500.
So wait a minute, that was an OE. It didn't come out right.
It did not come out right. It was a intake air temperature sensor. And for us in the aftermarket, luckily we now have access to star cases from Chrysler. If we did not have access to those star cases, this would have been a little bit harder to diagnose. But the intake air temperature sensor had a circuit high code. So, okay, great. Something's not working. We know that there's an open in the wire somewhere. Or the sensor's not working. Avis had replaced the intake air temperature sensor twice, and it still had the circuit high code. But it was somewhat intermittent. So I went out there, and what I had on me was a pair of tweezers, and I went and I just shorted the circuit, and it went circuit high, circuit low, and I went, great, okay, cool. Then I took the connector apart, and I went, it looks like somebody had jammed a screwdriver in there. They had not. That was how it came from the factory. So I go, okay, great. Get me the pigtail. Pigtail was available same day from a generic parts store. I got a pigtail, installed the pigtail, went to go, plug it in, go take it on a test drive, and now I have circuit high again. And so I'm sitting there and I'm questioning myself, and I'm going, how could I not diagnose a 2-wire circuit? Should I go back and change oil on lawnmowers? I'm questioning my sanity at this point. And then I go and I get a voltmeter instead of my tweezers, and I have no voltage at the air intake temperature sensor. So I go back into service information, look the code up again, and there's a second star case for another spread terminal at a main connector for the ECU. Go take that connector apart. They didn't want to replace that connector. They didn't want to wait on that because that wasn't readily available. So I just took a screwdriver, pushed the terminals back together. So I'm plugged it in and everything works. But I'm sitting there and I'm questioning my sanity. How can I have 2 spread terminals on the same wire on both ends of it? But those are the types of things that we're going to see, and I would not have the opportunity to work on a vehicle with 1,200 miles if I wasn't a mobile guy or I wasn't a foreman at a dealership.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the things that Isaac just brought up that I want to bring kind of full circle is he was just talking about star cases. So star cases are a internal bulletin for Chrysler, similar to a TSB. However, Chrysler has technical service bulletins, and they have star cases. And star cases, for many years, were only available to their dealer network and were not available at all to the aftermarket, and we couldn't see them. Even if you paid for a factory subscription to Tech Authority, you still could not see star cases. So the reason we are able to see star cases is because there was a group of us that worked with NASTF and stood on that hill and complained and worked through all of the bureaucratic crap with Chrysler to get star cases available for the aftermarket. So now everybody in the U.S. has access to star cases, and that came from literally a group of like 5 people that worked on that to get that done.
You defended the hill, huh?
Yes.
And NASTAF is such a great liaison to the OEs.
Yeah. Yep. And without that, I mean, those never would have been available to us. In the very beginning, Chrysler tried to basically say that those didn't exist, and we said, no, many of us have worked at the dealer prior, and we know that they exist. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so that's just another good example of, what some of the people in the aftermarket have done that goes unnoticed, and people, may go on service information now and see that star case and not think anything about it and not realize that somebody they know may have had, a lot to do with getting that or getting them access to that information.
It goes back to RTFM, right? I mean, basically.
That's a myth.
But as far as...
Wait, y'all can read?
Yeah, sometimes.
Text to voice. It's like storyteller.
But as far as staying up to date, like Isaac said, having to work on new stuff, having to do programming for multiple makes and models. I mean, even somebody that is at a dealer, a GM dealer tech, may only know how to use the GM dealer software. For Isaac and I know Matt does a lot of programming too. We have to know how to use virtually every OE software out there, not only the programming side of it, most of the time the diagnostic side of it, and the service information. So it doesn't really matter which OE it is if we know how to use all of it. I mean, that's a lot more information that we have to understand than, say, somebody that's only working on a single make. So a lot of that gets translated into our classes. I certainly sit in everybody's class. I don't think there's anybody teaching here this week that I have not sat in their classes. I'd be, if there is somebody that's new, I typically try to sit through their class and see what we can take away from it. I've always gone off of Carm's motto of learn just one thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, how many classes you take, if you can take something away from it and just continue, and then it just builds. I mean, it's taking thousands of classes. I just built a new shop at my house for curriculum development, and I had to put all of the manuals away that I've got, and it took 3 lockers full of manuals that were probably only the last 5 years of stuff, and there's a few hundred of them, there. So people think about they take 1 4-hour class, a year or something, in comparison to, the guys that are sitting at this table that are taking hundreds of hours a year. So,
what's the amount that you need to stay current? And I know this is a crazy outreached question. You all may have a different answer. Is it 100 hours of engagement a year to be a forever perpetual student?
So it's an interesting question. I personally think if you're doing 40 to 60 hours a year, that's pretty good. I'd love to see people do more, but at least if you're doing 40 to 60 hours, that means that you've probably gone to 2 events. And if you're doing 2 events a year, you're at least getting something out of it. Mm-hmm. I also will say I want to go back to, Carm, you asked me this question during one of the last podcasts of how does somebody know who an expert is? And I think I've given this a lot of thought since then. And I think for like Matt and Isaac and myself here, what we feel the industry needs for ours is going to be different than somebody that is, different than us that doesn't attend as much training. And that comes back to, I look at Matt as an expert. So Matt knows how much time it took to get the knowledge he has. Isaac knows how much time it took to get the knowledge he has. So our idea of how much time it takes is definitely going to be different than somebody who, say, does not go to training.
Sure.
Well, and I would say that if we're looking at the 40 to 60 hours, you don't necessarily even have to go to an event. Shameless plug here. WorldPack has the free lunchtime webinars every week at noon in 4 time zones. So you can actually take 40 plus hours a year of training and never leave your shop.
Right.
It's free. And I know there's a couple other organizations that are doing free lunchtime webinars as well. And so there are great opportunities to take that training, and you can just have lunch, buy everybody at the shop lunch that one day, and everybody gets 40 hours of training a month or a year.
What's the blockage? Why? I mean, okay, say there's 150 people that show up. There should have been 100,000 that showed up on that lunch and learn. Why? Why are we not making the time, creating the time? We don't have the focus, the commitment of the company, the commitment of the technician. And again, I know there's no answer, and I know this is a facetious question because we know where the challenges are, but maybe this episode can change one or two people to say, damn it, they're right.
Yeah.
I got to do this.
Most of the shops live in a cave, and that's one of the hardest things to overcome. I mean, the amount of shops that I field phone calls for that are trying to scan a 2017 and newer Chrysler with a secure gateway, and they go, I'm locked out. And I go, you're not locked out. You need to use AutoAuth. And then they don't know what AutoAuth is, but it's been out since 2017, and it's now 2024. So, and that was public knowledge. It's been in magazines. There's been videos about it. There's multiple YouTube videos about it, and yet they still don't know because they just show up to work on the cars, and then they go home. They don't do anything other than that, and that's how they end up in a cave.
They're not challenging themselves?
No.
Or they're not doing the kind of work that they would have understood what AutoAuth was years ago.
Correct.
So it begs the question, how many scan tools are sitting in cabinets that have not ever been opened or used?
A lot. I mean, Matt knows how many Snap-on scan tools are out there with every lead that's never been unwrapped.
Beautiful brand new scope leads.
Yep.
Wow.
And a really decent scope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely capable of doing the vast majority of testing you need to do.
Yeah, the Snap-on scope will cover 99% of
Easy.
what regular repair shops need.
And they've had one for decades because they're on their third tool like it, and never knew it had a scope built in. Never had.
How are we as an industry getting away with that? Did mobile come in and step in and bridge that gap? Or are we just not working on the latest and greatest?
Well, what's the average age of a car now? Post-COVID and post all
dozen
the
years
car
or more,
stuff. Yeah, we're at 12 to 15 years, depending on what region you're in.
Yeah.
In the South, we're seeing pop-up headlights finally disappear where I'm at. Those cars are finally getting outdated, but the average shop's working on a car that's 10 to 15 years old. So when they get that 2018 Chrysler in, that may be the first time they've ever even touched a secure gateway car. And again, in the circle of what we do, we're going to encounter these vehicles more often, so we get exposure to that technology, but your average repair shop doesn't have to think about that.
Right.
Another example is the brake calipers that prime themselves when you open the driver's door. How many times have the shop blown calipers out because they didn't know?
Yep, exactly. That's public knowledge, but like Isaac was saying, they don't see the car because they're not working on it. So even though we know, because it's out there, it's public knowledge, they're not seeing it until the car comes in. And then they're like, I don't know anything about this. And the rest of us are like,
all right, so I'm not going to trainings, and I'm not in a networking group, and I'm not hearing these stories, and I'm having to be faced with these brand new incidents every single time, and I don't know where to go. They're hitting me off guard. I'm falling over.
So this is something I've given a lot of thought to. Where does every single shop go the first time that they see this? They go to AllData, they go to Mitchell, they go to Identifix. None of those companies.
You left out Google.
Yeah, I was just going to say
Google. But with Google, obviously, they're never going to find the Visions, the Apex. But certainly, if AllData, Mitchell, and Identifix were putting ads on their parts websites, every single shop in America is using some type of repair information, and that's where we've been missing the boat. Somebody's going to take this free advice that I just gave and make a bunch of money off it, but that's where you really need to be advertising through is the service information sources to get people to come out to these events.
I just find these questions far, far, far more complex than we're allowing for. You may not have asked, it's not a shot. You may not have asked my opinion about the hour stuff on purpose because that is a very rough question. And everything we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes or so, this is really, really complex stuff going with dynamics that we're not fully addressing. We see issues that require us to use certain skills that the vast majority of shops do not see regularly. And if they can't, they ship the car. They don't care. And they don't want to make the investment. They don't want to roll the dice on losing money getting out of their wheelhouses. And maybe what makes Isaac and Tanner and so many others here in this group we talk about so, elite is one, curiosity. They want to know. I want to know how this works. I want to know a better way to get to the root cause. And they've built a foundation or a personal culture over decades now, starting from they're just getting in to now, that they surround themselves with information, lifestyle. You're just talking about how much sleep we get. What do we do with the hours we're not sleeping? Other people are getting 8, 9 hours of sleep, 7 hours of sleep. We're not. What are we doing with that time? Studying, researching, interacting with each other, our friends in the industry, and even, some of us, all of our friends are in the industry. We've surrounded ourselves with really knowledgeable people that we can bounce ideas off of. We might not even be talking about specific cars. We're just talking about a tool, a system, a theory. What do you think about EGR and EGR gases under these type of situations? Those are conversations we have at 4 a.m. in a freaking hotel lobby. 4 a.m. in the hotel lobby, there's 6 of us over here talking about EGR. There's dozens and dozens over at the bar talking about football and whatever. So I don't know how you answer the question of how many hours or how do you work your way up to a certain skill set or knowledge level. So because people learn differently. Tanner goes to a class. We'll just say he goes to Isaac's EV class. Tanner retains the vast majority of that information for months, if not years, and has a chance to apply it. I go to the same class. I'm sitting next to Tanner. I'm paying attention this time. I come away with a fraction of it, and I forget it 2 months from now. And I don't see an EV for a year. That's a hurdle.
Yeah.
That is a big hurdle that affects this hour number.
Yeah, but it also goes to show you the repetitive nature of going to training.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wrote down personal commitment because everything I heard from him, it was all over you said it perfectly. But if you don't have a personal commitment to be in the meeting about the EGR versus the bar and football, then how could you expect to be the earner that you want to be if you're not working? Thank you for the shop to sending me here, but you've got to retain. You've got to take that knowledge and use it, work with it. You have to go back and teach it, because when you teach, you learn. You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
So the personal commitment, it's almost like, wow, we can almost develop an integration plan of how to improve your personal commitment to doing this job.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it's a lot of people want the 8 to 5, and they're not willing to have the commitment. When they're at home and they're not at a trade show, they're still only 8 to 5. Much of my younger years, I don't know if, I'm sure Matt knows this, and Harv before he passed away, but much of my younger years, my after 8 to 5 was on IATN chat, which is how Matt and I met, and I would have been 16, 17 years old.
Central New York.
Harvey used to be on there so late, and he was so tired, he'd have to cover one of his eyes because he was seeing double. So he'd cover one of his eyes so that he could keep reading and interacting.
Yeah. One of the guys used to always eat ice cream at night. Yeah.
You're talking about your legacies of how you got where you are. Those are great stories.
Yeah. But so it comes down to at any rate of that was midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, and it's been that way for many years. Like I said, that was when I was 16, 17. I'm 34 now, turned 35 this year. So that was how I got my start. And arguably, too, I would say that they were all nice enough to take me in. Harvey used to beat me up quite a bit, and I 100% deserved it.
Yeah, but that's an important point, Tanner. He beat you up because he loved you.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Well, and are you committed?
Right.
How much does this mean to you? And do you value what he's telling you? When he gives you this information that he earned, whatever it was, monetary, time, effort, all that, if he now gives this to you, do you value that? And he beats you up, he pokes and prods you a little bit, you stick with it like Tanner did, Now he knows what kind of cat he's dealing with, and it opens up the floodgates.
Yeah.
And you don't have to necessarily have your sights to be a trainer or a consultant in the industry. You just want to be the best.
Yeah, I was just a technician at the time. I was working in a shop. I didn't know.
And you just,
anything.
yeah, basically you just cared to be the best. Give me a challenge. You know, I go back to something you said earlier, Isaac, about that cable on this RAM, this 2024 RAM. You wouldn't do a case study on that. Would you type it up just as is in the back of your mind and your notes are there in case you ever run across it again?
I'm kind of the opposite of Tanner there. I am terrible about documentation. I'll remember it forever. I could recall just about every car I've probably ever worked on.
Damn you.
But I am terrible about documenting it. But the nice part is it was a star case. Somebody already documented it for me.
It was a star. Okay.
But I did, because there was both issues on that, I did upload pictures and send them back to Chrysler and confirm that both star cases applied to this vehicle.
Wow.
Isaac has a photographic memory.
I was about ready to. So does Matt, by the way.
So he says he doesn't document it. It's documented in his brain. He will remember forever.
Damn.
I mean, I can remember just about everything. And when we had the repair shop, I'm terrible about remembering people's names. But their profile picture on my phone was their VIN number.
What?
So that way, if they called and they needed something, I would go, okay, great. And then I could look up their vehicle by that, and I have everyone saved with what their car was. And so my wife goes and she'll ask me about somebody, and I go, well, what kind of car did they have? And then, oh, okay, great. Yeah, but no, Tanner does a great job of documentation. I do very poor documentation.
Well, you don't need it if you have the brain that stores everything you see.
Well, now that I don't have employees that work for me, it's less problematic. If you had a team of employees and you needed a knowledge base, Keith Perkins has a fantastic knowledge base that they keep internally for their team, and it's all the documentation of all their fixes from all the guys that work together there. And I think that's a fantastic approach, and it makes for a good team building experience just in diagnostic approach, because 5 different guys are going to approach the same problem 5 different ways.
Yeah.
Is photographic memory like Isaac has, is that, you're born with that, or do you have to learn? Can you learn it?
I think you can learn it to a degree on how you store data in your brain, but some people it's just more natural.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Names are in one ear and out the other.
But it doesn't matter. It's just as important to be able to, okay, Isaac knows that the information's stored up in his head. Tanner does the same thing. He just knows it's stored somewhere else in a PowerPoint, in a Word document, however he chooses. So he knows where it is. And you're going to find that more and more common nowadays, because just the way the culture we're brought up in society for memory is, go ask anybody around here what their parents' phone number is.
True.
They don't know. They wouldn't be able to dial it. What? Yeah. But they don't dial it. They just scroll, mom.
Yeah.
And that's it. They don't have to memorize anything. So they really don't. They know where to get the information. That's what they remember. But they don't necessarily remember the actual information, because part of it's why.
All right. So I'm in the Bay. I'm a technology specialist. I've got this challenge that was just brought into the company. But I'm on Facebook and I'm scrolling 3.5 hours a day in this stuff. How does a great technology specialist get focused, get back online? Where do you have to just say, do yourself a favor when you're jumping into this project? Top left drawer of the cabinet. Put the phone in there.
Well, the phone could be a tremendous tool.
It could be the tool that they use to get information from. But beep, beep. And so you're constantly, it's that you can't multitask when you're constantly reminded, look here, look here, look here.
I mean, not to quote Spider-Man, but with great power comes great responsibility. You can choose how you're going to use this technology.
Thank you.
You have to make the choice that I need my phone. Facebook isn't fundamentally evil. There's great resources there, but I'm going to use it for the purpose of this broken vehicle, because that's what I'm being paid to do right now. And so I have to have that, honor or whatever code to do that. And I'm going to use these resources along with, Google Slides or PowerPoint, because not only do I want to store this information for later reference, the company or leadership is also urging me to do so.
Yeah. And I think, too, some of it comes down to, is like Carm said, focus. Certain people are able to focus better and get annoyed, I guess I would say, sometimes by technology. My wife tells a story to everybody to try to make me look bad that when we were dating and she was texting me during the day, this is when I had a shop in New York, she was texting me trying to talk to me and basically was like, hey, how's your day and stuff, and I sent her a text message back that said, please leave me alone, I'm working.
Well, sometimes ADD can be a superpower in that, yes, it's not so much attention deficit, it's really focus deficit. But sometimes the superpower can be hyper focus.
Yeah.
And you end up tuning out the world. I have a suspicion that Isaac gets a lot of crap from people close to him that he's working on something, they're trying to get his attention, and they don't exist. They're not there.
If you've talked to Matt on the phone, that's how this goes. You say something and it's like 10 minutes of silence while he's thinking, and then all of a sudden he comes back.
I love what he said just a few minutes ago. He said honor or code. Honor and code. And honor to the job, the code that you're going to be the best professional ever can be your superpower if you focus on exactly what it is that you have, the data that you have in front of you, the research that you can do, the knowledge base you can call up, the networking that you developed. I just think that means so much.
Yeah.
I just do. I'm kind of moved by that. If you're listening and you're working in this industry and you can't quite grab on what honor or code means, stop and think about it. Hey, it's starting to get noisy. Let's wrap this thing. Wow, this was fun. Yeah, we went to 1 million places, huh? Krispy
It's
Kreme
just
waffles.
pictured inside the brain of presumably Isaac and myself. Shotgun splatter pattern.
And 10 million squirrels just running around.
Oh my God,
But
yes.
You know that is still how Rob and Mark rate my attention span is in squirrels.
Yes, 100%.
Oh, I bet you.
I am rated in squirrels. There
You
are
are?
18 squirrels today.
So in order to do that Ram truck, that 2024 Ram, how many squirrels did you have? Just one running?
No, so I will generally diagnose those at night so that all the other distractions are gone.
Oh, you don't get distracted at night?
The phone doesn't ring as much, and so I'm able to hyper focus better.
All right, hyper focus. All right. We should all start working at night. Wow, this was great. Matt Fanslow, thanks for being here. Tanner Brandt, wow. Isaac Rodell, my waffle man. Appreciate you being here on the Town Hall Academy at Apex 2024.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.